The nation of Uruguay has a nuanced place in football history. Despite being the first ever World Cup winners, amassing more Copa Americas than Brazil, and breeding an occasional world-class talent, it's often left out of conversation, overshadowed by the European powerhouses. As each generation passes, La Celeste is defined by a new superstar. At the moment, it's Valverde. A couple of years ago it was Suarez, before then Cavani, while the Naughties had Diego Forlan. But what about before the turn of the century? By the 70s, Uruguay had fallen into the same trap as much of South America. Under a military dictatorship and in a worsening recession, the capital Montevideo bore the brunt of the violent tactics enforced by General Gregorio Alvarez and his junta. This is the world Alvaro Alexander Recoba Rivero was welcome to and had to escape it. Scouted by Danubio, it's always been Nacional that's the mark of making it in Uruguay, so after a year or so of showcasing his gifts, he made his way to Parque Central. Here, he promptly took the Primera Division by storm, weaving through defences with way too little effort, using his low centre of gravity and cheeky tricks to spin centre halves. A particularly famous goal saw him mirror another Latin great and captured just how ready for the next level the 20-year-old was. They couldn't contain the hype coming out of the capital, and Europe picked up on it, namely Sandro Mazzola, a 60s legend of Inter Milan's golden era, who was now their sporting director. The president took his advice and greenlit his purchase. Recoba was now a Nerazzurro. It was another 20-year-old that hogged the limelight, as this was the summer that Ronaldo Nazario came to Milan for a world record fee. Ballon d'Or in hand, he was the best in the world, and El Chino's chances were instantly halved, now competing with the already established forwards in Inter's camp. Unsurprisingly, he wasn't on the team sheet for their league opener, hosting Brescia, though not even the Brazilian could break the deadlock, so Luigi Simone put his faith in youth, introducing the Uruguayan 1 minute before the visitors took the lead. The Curva Nord may have heard whispers about his skill or rumours of a cracking left foot, but in the 17 minutes given, Recoba ensured they'd remember the name.
Buono 1-2, Recoba carica a sinistro e finalmente il gol del Chino! Che gol signori! Parte la rincorsa di Recoba, il suo tiro ed è il gol del 2-1! Ed è il gol del 2-1! Magia di Recoba!
In one of the most memorable debuts we've seen, the 20 proved there was more to the window than just a phenomena, and Inter's optimism around the Scudetto grew even more.
A ver, un amigo que lo viene a saludar. Hola Chino, el mejor jugador de la cancha, hizo 2 golazos. Ahora yo quiero que nos cuentes dónde está viviendo el Chino. En mi casa. ¿Qué le da de morfar a tu vieja? Porque clava 2 zapatazos así en 5 minutos. Espagueti, torta, de todo, comemos de todo. Le pega con 2 rebenques, son 2 rebenques.
2 new strikers, one right-footed, the other a lefty. It seemed perfect, and who could contain them? Well, this was 90s Serie A, and often defenders could get away with just kicking him out the game, so Simone opted against him. Spending most of his minutes in the early stages of the Cup, he was a super sub elsewhere, barely getting a chance in the black and blue, so midway through his second season, Inter loaned him out to Venezia when a new partner for R9 came in. In the floating city, Arancio Nero Verde was sinking, looking likely to go straight back down after their promotion. And yet, a man with just 2 Serie A starts was the one they pinned all hopes on. Recoba just wanted time, and as a second striker, he fit in seamlessly, setting up 6 goals in that first month, and even grabbing his own to keep Venezia unbeaten with the Uruguayan. His passing from range was an absolute joke, and weighing those assists in behind to perfection, his creative capacity was limitless. A couple of typical striker finishes were sprinkled into his tally, but it was mainly topped up by set-piece screamers. Bending and dipping the ball's certainly one of the hardest skills to pull off from a dead ball situation, yet Recoba could control its movement mid-air like it was RC. Single-handedly saving them from relegation, his 10-goal, 10-assist combo in a half-season made him a legend of Venice, still adored to this day. Inter had made a mistake in trusting Simone's judgment, as the loanee gave a gut punch to his parent club in a 3-1 win that wrote off any European involvement for the UEFA Cup holders. Fed up, Moratti reached for the coaching top shelf, hiring Marcello Lippi, the mastermind behind their rival's recent era of dominance. As El Chino returned though, he was met with another world record fee breaking centre forward to minimise his chances of game time. However, Ronaldo's infamous knee quickly exploded, sending him into years of rehabilitation, and Baggio fell out with the coach, so all of a sudden Recoba was first choice. Playing off Vieri's shoulder, his speedy runs and swift footwork complemented the target man perfectly, and goals kept coming for both of them.
Oh, it's gone in!
Until the injury curse struck Bobo too, and Ivan Zamorano became his partner, beside whom his impressive form continued. Another year with double digits in both fields, the adaptable Uruguayan had filled in well as they waited for the €90 million duo to return. Though he didn't always rise to the responsibility, missing a penalty to cost them a Champions League place and Lippi his job. Considering their lack of depth up top, new man Tardelli tried out a couple of foreign forwards looking for a hidden gem, but couldn't find one better than the apple of Moratti's eye, who'd never been injured and always had a game winner up his sleeve. The owner offered him a 6-year deal in the new year of 2001, making him the highest paid player in the world. Shocking news at the time, he was obviously talented and in his mid-20s, but he'd essentially won nothing and was yet to fully convince. More money, more problems was the theme of his early noughties, as in the same month as the negotiations, Recoba was found guilty as a culprit in the passport scandal. 2 years prior, he'd obtained an Italian passport through Inter's new director, which turned out to be a fake, so they could get around the 3 foreign players limit still in place. A year-long ban was haggled down to 4 months, so the Nerazzurri went without El Chino from the summer until December. Upon returning, he found another new man at the helm, and one he had no instant chemistry with. Hector Cooper was a demanding coach, known to lack patience, and Recoba was pushed out to the left wing, but even out of position, his genius couldn't be contained. The 20s consistency was the problem for Cooper, and believing Recoba didn't fit, he requested a new striker. Lazio's target man Hernan Crespo suited his old school ideology. Yet again El Chino gelled with the newcomer in no time, continuing to prove how easy he was to share a pitch with. Back to his best, and with a more regular scoring pattern, Inter's Scudetto chase looked likely to reward. Still, Cooper kept interrupting his momentum, which infuriated the owner as Juve retained the title and Milan booted them out of Europe. Another promising year ended in disappointment, and Alberto Zaccheroni now entered the frame, promising that El Chino was to be a key player for him. Fortune was out of his favour though, as the injury bug plagued the 27-year-old's campaign, and the new class of goalscorers got their chance. Almost like a wild card, he popped up with moments of genius, and even if too sporadic, his goal per minute ratio was top draw, as were the quality of his strikes. It seemed effortless for him to smash them away from distance, an indicator of another of his problems. Recoba's work rate was never the best, but with the hamstring trouble and ankle fracture, his top speed was rarely ever seen again. Roberto Mancini saw him as an impact sub, so their ensuing success was hard to see as his own. Contributing one of Inter's 80 goals that secured a consecutive title in 07, it was a fitting curler to end his Nerazzurri account with. A decade in Milan gave him all sorts of highs and lows, so a quiet year in Turin to see out his time in Italy and get him settled into his 30s was perfect. He'd helped keep Il Toro in the top flight, and it was now time to move on, becoming the main attraction of Greece's Super League for around 18 months. Panionios enjoyed him for as long as they could afford him, and as shirt sales dried up, the wages became unpayable, so he agreed to leave Europe altogether when the offer of a homecoming came through. Reconnecting with his roots at La Curva, Recoba gave his first club Danubio all he had to offer, mentoring the youngsters as a role model on top of those fleeting moments of class that age can't touch. After that year and a half, he made a stop at Nacional next, where, fueled by his influence, they topped the table in the Apertura, and then in the championship playoff scored the only goal to lift his first Uruguayan silverware. By 2015, they'd wrapped up another league title, and Recoba's full-circle footballing journey felt complete, putting a cherry on top with a benefit match to celebrate the 40-year-old's career at the place he called home. The case of El Chino is a curious one indeed. Looking back to that debut in '97, the promise of Recoba was always bound to be exaggerated. Recoba never stated any sky-high ambitions beyond continuing to do his hobby as a job, and though God may have given him the talent to be great, he didn't balance it with determination. Whether showing up late to training or coasting for 90 minutes, his hunger had a shelf life that once reaching the San Siro was satisfied, and he settled in Italy. Inter's instability during his prime years didn't help, and mixing in the scandal and the timeout, it wasn't the setting for him to develop into the world-class player we all knew he should be.